Hi, everyone. Hello. We are on time, so we can start. My name is Clarissa. I'm from Brazil. I work at Uber. And the idea today is to talk a little bit about expensive design mistakes that you have overall, not just Uber, and the consequence of that, and trying to learn a little bit how it changed the way that we do software, the way that we do all decisions when we talk about designs in general. A little bit about my journey. I started as business analyst at the time, since that customer will like this, let's do that. So everyone is a designer at the time. So it goes to quality lead. You don't need UX research to know what is best, what is better to customers. Let's do the way that you want, because we know how to do that. And right now we are today in the sense that is they are not using as expected. Why? So it goes back to why it's not using our amazing UI that it's the best one compared with others. This is the reason that we need to have, that we want to understand, and we'll talk about a little bit about some examples. Talking about Uber context, we have the good part about is that they have a lot of data about usage, a lot of XPs based on all features, new features that we can understand if users are not going this direction. And Uber has a lot of XP as well. So the scale is it's huge. And based on that, we have a lot of data that we can understand how it works. Uber in context here, you can see the end of the year, you can have a view about that. Trips around the world in the new year of 2023, happening in the different regions. And this scale helps us to understand the usage and why people are not clicking the button that we believe that they would click, and so on. Going reverse engineering here, this is the takeaways that we'll review at the end. So we'll talk about some insights, how people scan information, they don't read for sure, and how we don't need to reinvent things, and how can be clear, and so on. We'll go to these dimensions and discuss a little bit. Feel free to stop anytime, to raise questions, comments. It's a conversation. Integrating insights. Over 16% of cases, visitors give up in the first seconds. This is information, it's not a guess. And we have here that a lot of internet users, they prefer to climb Everest and click on a banner. I'm one of them. So why we have a lot of banners if people are not clicking? This is a mystery that we need to discover, but based on facts, we can adapt the software that we are doing the way that we are doing. Going to, it's not passing here? Okay. People don't read, they scan. People scan information in different directions, in different patterns. I'm the one that I like to go to layer cake pattern. I identify it after reading that I'm a layer cake person, because I like to go to bold and most important information to try to scan and not read the entire text. This is why when we do web pages, we do differently to try to have all of these patterns more or less in your design. You have a heat map version that you can see the eyes that people are most likely to see, to read and to identify information. And at the end, you have all this information that you can go deep in details because you have links for everything that is presented here. And here we have an example from Yamaha that you can see the eyes tracking, eye tracking, that you can see the places that people are more interested in, scanning and so on. This is why you see that image is important, bold is important, and going different paragraphs is also important. Here we have also, what is important to do is prioritize the content with visual hierarchy, core navigation, website. This is why it's important. Size, context, proximity, alignment, everything is important to have a smooth reading that we don't, at least in my case, I didn't identify the difference, but when you go to a page that it's using the correct way, another one that is not using, you see how different it is. For example, if you go to New York Times, you see the difference and how easy it is to read this one instead of the other, based on these visual patterns applied. They did this reframe, and they increased a lot the number of readers. And basically, this is like a paper journal. As you see, it's just copy and paste for a paper pattern. And here you have a more web-based pattern that you can scan more easily information. Here we have also, people don't read the scan in the sense that Uber app was, in 2011, was very in the early days, but right now, it's also not the last one, but we have a scan that you can see the button, request Uber, the ETA, home, so you can see the most important information, value, and so on. And you can identify if you are getting this one or if you are getting another kind of product, but it's much more easy here than there. That you don't have buttons, call to action, and very clear there. We need to have consistent design language, standard colors, and everything like that. It's helping us to read and identify that. And here we have also call to action. Keep the balance of negative space and check that call to action is seen at once. For example, confirm pickup here is the call to action to a Uber app. So you need to have it very visible, very big, very different color, so people know what to do, and they don't need to think about what I need to do right now. It seems that we had, and terminology should be the same. For example, in some screens, it used to be confirm pickup in another collection. So you should have the same naming, the same pattern for all places in the website or in the app or in the system to call the same thing, otherwise it will be a mess. And it translates to code. Sometimes the same action is one name in one org, and in another org, another team is another name, but they are doing exactly the same thing. So we need to combine, and we need to merge to be easy to identify and use in the correct way. And test the readability of the copy. Here you can see applying numbers, not words, put in bold, place one idea in one paragraph, don't mix stuff. Eye tracking will help us to scan and to have this information here. This is why it's really important and have a beautiful way to us to not give up the website. Here you can see a place that is really not easy to read. You have big buttons, but you don't have, you need to click a bunch of times in the same thing to go to a place. So you have menu order that is open a new one and a new one. So it's not good to eyes, I would say, because it's colors, big buttons, so you need to have balance on that. The same here. Use number and bullet lists. Highlight what is key. Use images and illustrations to help people to identify what you're doing, and make it on the power of the user to go to this direction that they can go and go back or skip, but it's their decision to do that, so we need to provide information to them to be able to do that. And don't reinvent things. This is one important thing. We are seeing it in different ways in AI models, in design. So if you have something that is working and it's good enough, we don't need to reinvent it. So we have mental models, and we need to align these mental models to match the system and real world and have this consistent and having standards to that. We need to recognize instead of recall. First, if you need to have a long acronyms list or a long explanation, you are not recognizing, you are recalling it. You need to study what each of these things do. It's not the best solution to that. This is the point, we tend to develop a thing that is familiar to us. So we have expectations, and we try to align between products and websites to have the same experience. So if you have different things, it's not aligning, we are not recognizing. We need to recall, and we need to learn for each new site. For example, here. All of these, they are real cases. Do you or someone you care for have diabetes? So no, it's bad. Yes, it's happy, facey. So basically, if you don't have someone that you care for diabetics, it's a good thing, not a bad thing. So, and why we are doing different direction, just replacing, and for example, there, you see that 9 button is in another direction, page up is there. And since we have that, the numbers, they are together. So they tried to reinvent, and they removed this from the market because it didn't work. So what is the reason to move that? Do you have a research for that? If you have a research, okay, but no research, just for the sake of, I want to have page down and up in the same top and putting 9 there. People confuse it, and people, I don't like this. And we have some others ones that are, Facebook changed, for example, live feed to default instead of news feed. So it was some years ago, so Facebook groups start to change Facebook back to normal. People hate it. And when they went down, they mentioned that the decision makers, they mentioned, we believe that it could be a good decision. And what people are asking is that, okay, if you take this decision for me, but at least give me an option to go back. This is the point. If you're changing something, at least give an option to go back. You are not a decision maker for someone. You can do a suggestion, but they need to have control and power to go back if they want. And here we have also navigation should be effortless. And you need to focus on text, avoid being polar towards individuality. For example, here we have this long list that you cannot search. And it's getting very difficult if you have a long one. And the same here. So you should be easy to search and to go down there. And we have some examples. You don't need a drop-down for numbers. You can just type. That it's not good, it's useless, it's more hard to go with these things. And this is something that we don't need to reinvent. We can use tab and numbers since forever, and it's working. And be clear, not clever. That is something that, this is a good solution on malls, that you go to parking lot and you can see if you have empty space or not. And here we have a change that Heinz did in the ketchup. They did, based on feedback, that no one was able to get the full content of this first one. They moved it to the new version that you have today. So you don't need to change and trying to have everything. You can just have a version that you can get everything from inside. So we have some other ones. This is a small example, but in reality, they did the research, and most of the people, they use Heinz because it's easy to have everything, it's easy to use, and you can have everything from there. And we have some other examples. Don't use vague icons that it could be different in different dimensions. For example, search or zoom, we have magnifying glass in different cases. Right now, edit or write, you have the pencil. So it could have different meanings depending on the case. So we need to understand and go back to mental models. For example, the save icon is a thing that no one is using anymore, but we keep the same icon to recognize instead of recall. So we use the same icon forever. And this is the other ones that could be different ones, trying to put in more context, that it to be easy to others to understand. If you're edit, writing, or search, or zoom, it should be something that is clear to us. Here we have this really fancy juiceiro. That is a juice machine that it works wireless, that you can have an app, don't have buttons. So you have an app that you can just place and having juice. The point is that it's very aesthetic, beautiful, but if you don't have battery, if you have someone without the app, or if your app crashed, or if you have different version not supported by, you're not able to. So accessibility is one. The point is that we can have aesthetic, we can be very fancy, but we need to provide a way to users to recover by themselves. So you can have the app, you can have everything, but you should have a simple button that, okay, my mother's at home and she needs a juice. So go in there and just press. And we need to find ways to recover. The other one is that QR code. If you don't have internet for some reason, if you don't have battery, if it's an old person that is not familiar with technology, you are not able to have food because you cannot. The restaurants, they don't have more paper right now. So you need to provide a way. You can have QR code, but you need to provide a way to users. Okay, this is the plan B if nothing else works. And this is related to this principle of people have limitations. Your design should be aesthetic and minimal design, but that works. For example, here it's a healthcare system. The first one was not really clear, and we have a lot of information in the first page. And second one, when you can see that you have everything that is important to the person that is logging. Message to me. Interesting that I just realized it right now, vaccinations for Brazil, since that it's something from Brazil. Okay, prescriptions, appointments, and everything that is really important, one page, alerts, and so on. And different from that the first one is just having a lot of message that you can go. You don't have one single page with everything that is important to this person. And here we talk about deceptive design, and that is, Prime did this, and they needed to pay a lot to do it to lawsuit. That is, more than 20, a bunch of people subscribed to Amazon Prime globally by mistake because they added a button inside of another, and of course, they received a lot of money, but they needed to pay a fee, a huge one, and revert back to these people because we have this deceptive design. If you want, we have this hall of shame of deceptive designs that you can see a bunch of cases, but I will have a survey in the end that you can have this deck with all these examples if you want. But here you have the hall of shame of deceptive design with some examples from all companies that you can see how they are doing. And here as well, that how to be clear here. we have this bank system, Citibank accidentally wired the full loan amount to the creditors, a lot of money, because the system was not clear enough, and they were not able to get this money back. So this is another example how it could have huge problems, and how it could be a real problem. When they talk about expensive design mistake, this is one. And this is another thing. Apple Maps removed the Liberty status from there, and they need to pay a lot for that. So this is one example here that it's really. And I'm not sure if you guys remember this actor that is one of the Anton Yelkin, I believe. He had a Jeep Cherokee that the design was not clear enough when it was stuck. So it caused confusion that it's supposed to be locked and it was not locked. And he died because of that. The Jeep, crossed that. So it was a defect in the car's transmission, but it was also a defect on the design of the stuff. And going to the topic that people don't care about how we do, this is one principle. People don't want to work or think more how things interact with each other. Is that, for example, people that have iPhone, they have AirPods from the same brand because it connects much better. So it's not because it's more fancy or more expensive, because it is compared with others. It's because the connection is perfect. So we don't need to think about how you connect one thing to another. We need that things just work. We need to recognize instead of recall. This is and have visibility of the system. So I need to understand if the battery is getting low, and I need to be able to see when it's connected. Basically, this is what I need from that. It's not because, basically, UX is very simple, and it works perfectly here. And we have this choice paradox that I'm the one suffering from that. If I'm in a big city that we have a bunch of options to food, a bunch of delivery options, I'm 1 hour trying to find one, and I'm not able to, and I'm scrolling, infinite scrolling that in the app. So this is the principle of choose paradox, that we need to provide minimal information that help the user to take the decision. For example, in the Uber app, you have just 3 options from the all products in the top. If you want, you can go down. But you have 3 first options and a preferred one based on your history that you don't need to think a lot about which one you select. Basically, you're going mostly by the first one, and this is it. And this is another thing is emphasize the aha moment. That is, when you have a progress bar or something like that, people are more compliant to finish everything, to go to to finish this task. So we have here new users who accomplish a certain task are 10 plus more likely to subscribe to a paid account or something like that. So emphasize when we have a step completed is something that will help to have other ones paid. And here's that users should have ownership of their experience. You can customize the app. You can put the information that you want in the way that you want. It's more likely that you use instead of someone selecting it to you. And we have this, I'm not a user, period. It's because usually we have decisions being made by the hypo, the highest paid person's opinion, someone that is director, someone that is high level but is not using. You see a lot of in software implementation, the person that is deciding to a software instead of others is not the one that is using. So when people are really using, it's not working most of the time. So we don't need to have hypo people making design decisions to our products. This is the first one. I know that it's difficult, they have a lot of opinions, but we need to find a ways to not have decisions basically only on that. And avoid yes, no questions. For example, Walmart did a survey asking, would you like Walmart to be less cluttered? Of course, everyone wants it. And Walmart removed a lot of this inventory and they lost a lot of money. But the question is that, what do you think should be changed in Walmart and why? Not about yes, no. Basically on yes, no question, what you would remove from that? They remove it, aleatory, a lot of option, and they started to lose money. So the closed questions should be specific to a situation, not for everything. Otherwise, you'll not have any context, any clue about how to improve the experience. And having A/B testing always, this is from Uber. Every single button, screen, pop-up, everything, we have A/B by city. So it's easy to understand why people are not. It's easy to understand when people are not using. Why they are not using is something to UX research. But we can at least avoid rolling out a complete feature, and it's not working at all to the users. And here we have also usability testing, observability. This is the heat map of trips happening in the different cities. And Uber has a complexity that we have, complexity and beautiful, that is, each city has, cities they have their own configuration, so you can do by city, by neighbor experiments, so it's easy to identify that. And put cross-cultural difference in place is something that is important. If you go to this experiment, in the top you have Americans. The picture that it was from Americans, and at the bottom you have East Asian people. You see that Americans, they are much more direct to the point, and Asian people more detailed, and with more information and context. This is a draw, but it's exactly how it works when we go to words and when we go to interact with these people. For example, here we have this difference. I'm from Brazil, I'm in the very middle, but low context are people that are direct to the point, straight to the point, and high context are the ones that they put much more sophisticated information, nuances, and so on. I worked in a German company, ACP, before Uber. So I needed to adapt my way of communication. This is something that I learned. For example, at ACP, I needed to put one pager with all options that I considering numbers and everything like that. When I did the same to my director at Uber, she told me, I'm not understanding your ask. Why you need everything to propose something? What you need to do everything like this to propose? Give me 3 examples, a context and a proposal, and let's try that. So this is difference that is not right or wrong, it's how cultures, they interact in different ways. And when you put this in place, you see here, for example, this is an Asian. This is the same version of the website, Asian version. A lot of context, a lot of colors, a lot of information. When we go to American version, it's much more clean, direct to the point, different from the other one. So basically, when we think about Creating effective visual hierarchies is something that is important. Having essential design in place, visibility and system status. Users should have control to their experience, and they should be able to recover from errors by themselves. Error that is a number not saying anything to the user is not helpful. Even at least if it's a secret, if it's a fraud or something, we should give them a way to recover by themselves. If we need to remember some things, I would say don't reinvent what is already working, and match the system with the real world is something that is important, so it helps to recognize instead of recall. We are not the user. We can create, we have our own opinions, we should raise that, we can suggest that, but everything should be defined based on research and perspective and experiments, because we can create very good designs, but people there are doing their own way of things. And ask the right questions. Focus on the problem is better than in the answer, so we need to understand the problem so we can align to the way that you can fix the answer on that. And if you go here, it's a very quick survey, and you have this deck with all information. Thank you. Any questions?
You didn't mention AI with one word. And, oh, sorry. You didn't mention AI with one word. I was just wondering, inside Uber, what is like in design-wise and all the possibilities that are raising, like voice assistants and so on, what are the hottest topics with your colleagues? What features, how to implement? Everybody is pushing for AI features.
Yeah.
What is the discussions you are having inside Uber? Could you give some keys on that?
Do you mean about design specifically?
Yes, but also it's pushing like people's expectations to what good design is. Maybe some would prefer very quickly voice assisted instead of pushing buttons. When you have like the 3 options you push to users, they might not understand that it is like based on previous selections and so on. And there's a lot of hidden stuff that comes in with AI. And also design-wise, it can be very biased easily and so on. So I was just wondering if what kind of discussions are you having inside Uber in your design team in regards to how this push your way of working? Yeah.
Great question. Yeah, we have design patterns that is used Uber-wide. You need to have the same typology, same components, and so on. But what AI cannot replace, at least right now, is that we have UX research that is based this human part of getting surveys and talking with people. For each new product that we have at Uber, we have interviews. For example, right now, recently we launched teenagers for Uber. We have guardians, and teenagers can take their own trips. We have women preferred, so you can select women drivers instead of men if you prefer. And we are going to have kids soon. So each of them, they are nuances that AI cannot do, because you need to talk with people, you need to cluster, you need to have this human sensor of what they prefer and what they look like. And AI is really good, and they have a very straightforward data. But when you talk about how people feel and how the expectations of them is not straightforward like that. So this is why UX research is playing a different role. But when you go to difference on UX and UI, AI can help a lot. There is elements in that, comparing if you're using the same model and everything. But UX, that is about experience, is something that you can compare discrepancies. You can use AI to compare, and you can use AI to compare experiment results, but to understand and to have insights about how understand what is wrong. But we need to have a human in the loop to go deep on that.
Didn't really answer my question. I was just like, it didn't really answer my question. I was just like wondering, somebody is pushing for like custom, instead of having the same page generated for every user, you might have like AI generate something specific for users. And in your flow, you might have like apps that will change all the time. Some says apps is dead because you can't make the same app for every user. Your needs are different and it will change. And so I was just wondering, how was you concerned with that? Because your approach to design seems very classical in some sense now, looking backward, with all the options we have now. So I was just wondering, what is your colleagues pushing for? The most eager ones, what AI features or proposals, or what is keeping their minds busy?
Yeah. What they are pushing right now, I believe, that is much more helping on development per se, not necessarily about the daily work and something like that, but not specifically about the research as of now. Because AI is helping a lot on developer productivity and how to make things standard across different apps, and how to generate the text based on inputs that you do based on personas. But when you go to this research part, this is what I was mentioning, it's something that we cannot do with AI as of now. So the push is for developer effectiveness and improve that. But for the research per se, something that we can have insights, but AI is not doing too much right now. Anything else?
I was just wondering that you mentioned that these yes/no questions are not that great to get feedback for, but aren't like people not filling out the open questions that often? Because my experience is that the faster they can get through a survey, the more likely they are to fill out. So don't you? So what is your experience with this?
Yeah. On this way, the things how we do and how it's getting a lot of results is that having a mixed ones, depending on the question, yes, no is enough. But depending on the what you need to get, it's not enough at all, and it will have a bias on any action that you do for that. So the trick is to have a good mix of these two ones, and of course not doing a long list of questions, because it's really important. But at Uber, when you go to real users, if you are answering a survey, you are receiving some kind of bonus or something like that, they have these ones that you can have some benefits from people that are using. This is one. And the second, not getting too long. And three is having this mix of good balance. So the ones that, okay, with yes or no, I'm not getting anything from here. So this one should be open. Welcome. We have one at the back.
Hi there. Yeah, wonderful talk. Thank you very much. What I wanted to know is your sort of opinion on qualitative and quantitative questioning when you're getting user feedback.
The quality of the answers, do you mean?
When you're asking questions, they could be qualitative, so you're asking for opinions, or they could be quantitative, where you're looking for maybe numbered systems or true or false. So I'm just wondering what your opinion was.
I believe that quantitative is good when we talk about classes. For example, classes of age, gender, and something like that, or how happy you are with this app, that you have a range or something like that. But when we talk how happy we are with this app, it's a range, but it's not getting, my way of thinking is that what I'm getting from here, just about happiness, but I'm not getting any AI from here. So I cannot do anything with this happiness because I don't know why this person is not happy. So to not boring the user is that if the user is happy with the app, don't need to ask anything else. If the user is not happy, we need to give me 3 hints or give me a hint why you are not happy with that. Basically, one is to identify the group that is answering the question, location, age, how many times it's using the app per week or something. This information that is important. The second one is that everything that they should have a hint, what is wrong, it should be open question. Anything else? Okay. Thank you.